If you're seated at the button in a poker tournament, occasionally every player to your right will fold, and you'll have the option of opening the pot with a raise. Usually you do this with a strong hand. We call that a value raise because you hope that the small blind or the big blind will call you, and you'll be able to, with a worse hand, and you'll be able to extract more value out of them with your better hand post-flop. When you make that same pre-flop raise with a wider range of hands than your value raising range, we call it stealing the blinds, because you're actually hoping now that the small blind or the big blind fold a hand that's better than yours. And in essence, you're robbing them of their fair share of chips that are already in the pot. Stealing blinds is really popular, and it's not without good reason. Let's talk about 3 things that make it such a good idea in Texas Hold'em. First off, you have a chance of winning the pot uncontested. Meaning, if both the small blind and the big blind fold, you'll win 1.5 big blinds without any further resistance. And whenever you can win even a small amount in poker while minimizing your downside, it's a good strategy. Secondly, you have something called position. We'll discuss it at length in another video, but it means that if the blinds call, you're going to be last to act on every betting round. And if they're decent players, they know this. They fear that disadvantage, that information disadvantage, and they're usually willing to get out of the way and fold pre-flop. Finally, even if they do call pre-flop, you have what is known as the lead, meaning you were the pre-flop aggressor, and if they check to you on the flop, you can continue that aggression with a continuation bet, and it's usually enough to win the pot. When using the method of stealing blinds, you have to pay careful attention, though, to the ratio of your pre-flop raise, to the size of the blinds, as well as antes, if there are any. Let's work through a chip example, a hand with actual chip values, to demonstrate the concept even further. What if the blinds are 100 and 200? And you raise 3 big blinds and put in 600 chips into the pot. Think about how often this move needs to work in order to break even in the long run. How many times do you have to win those blinds to offset the times that you lose your original investment of 600? Let's say one time we play the hand and it doesn't work. One of the blinds has something good, they re-raise all in, and we're forced to fold. We'll lose 600 chips. When the steal works, we're getting 300. The sum of the small and the big blind. For every time we lose, we actually have to win twice, so that our profit of 600 equally offsets our loss of 600. In other words, we have to win 2 out of every 3 hands. 66% of the time, our steal has to be successful for us to break even in the long run. But that's with a pre-flop raise of 3 big blinds. Could we lower that break-even threshold if we lowered the size of our pre-flop raise? Well, let's take a look. What if we raised the minimum 2 big blinds? So we stick 400 in the pot. Let's take a look at what that does to our break-even threshold. When we lose, we're only out 400 chips. But we're still going to get 300 when the steal works. So if we lose 3 times, we're down 1,200 chips. How many times do we have to win the 300 to offset that? 4 times for plus 1,200. Profit and loss offset. In other words, you have to win the blinds 4 out of every 7 hands. The 7 is 4 plus 3. 57% of the time. So simply by changing the size, reducing the size of our pre-flop raise from 3 big blinds to 2 big blinds, we've lowered the break-even threshold of blind stealing from 66 down 9 percentage points to 57. What if there are antes at the table? This will further lower the break-even threshold. But let's work through an example to see exactly how much. So in this example, there's we'll raise 2 big blinds, but there's also antes. Let's say the antes are 50 at our given table. There's 9 players, so that means there'll be an additional 450 chips in the pot pre-flop. We'll still be losing 2 big blinds when the steal doesn't work. But when it works, it's blinds plus antes that we're winning, for a total of 750 chips. If you do the similar math as the 2 examples above, this means the break-even threshold is 34%. About 1/3 of the time, we need both the small blind and big blind to fold for stealing the blinds to be profitable under these circumstances.